What is up, guys? Joe the Mater here, and it might be a little loud. It's because I'm standing right in the middle of the village of Hosingen. Today's documentary is going to be about the heroes of Hosingen, and I'm talking about K Company from the 110th Regiment, the 28th Infantry Division, who defended this village with 300 men against more than 2,000 German soldiers. And basically they did that during the first 2.5 days of the Battle of the Bulge. And we're going to follow Lieutenant Thomas Flynn. He was the executive officer of K Company, who was under command of Captain Fiker. And today we're going to follow his route, and we're going to see what this village, what role this village played in the Battle of the Bulge, and how successfully it postponed the German advance towards the town of Bastogne. Because this area right here and the whole 28th Infantry Division played a major role in saving the village of Bastogne, so that defenders, 101st Airborne, could enter and take up defensive positions. So today we're gonna follow Thomas Flynn, and yeah, I'm excited. I hope you guys are as well. We're gonna go, and I'll see you guys at the historical sites in this town. Hosingen was one of the 5 strong points the 110th Infantry had established along the front. The village was defended by the 1st and 2nd Platoon of K Company, and 3rd Platoon having been assigned to a position just south of the village. Also in the village was B Company, with only between 125 and 130 men of the 103rd Engineer Combat Battalion under Captain William H. Jarrett, that was responsible for road maintenance in the area. In support were the 2nd and 3rd Platoon of M Company, the Battalion Heavy Weapons Company. Additional support was provided by attachments, about 30 men with 3 57mm anti-tank guns and 3 50 caliber machine guns positioned at a crossroad south of Hosingen along the Skyline Drive. There was the main north-south road paralleling the front. Hosingen was at the middle of the 110's 15-mile sector, set on the Ober-Eisenbach Hosingen-Draufeld road that led west to the town of Bastogne. The village, situated on a ridgetop with a twisting road to the east, dropping down the Uhr River, and to the west to the bridges over the Clare River at Draufeld and Ruwerwiels. Alright guys, so upon arriving at Hosingen, Flynn quickly assessed the situation. Most of the NCOs of the company came from the 41st Replacement Battalion, and they all had seen action at the Hurtgen Forest, where the 28th Infantry Division is really famous for. They spilled a lot of blood, the Battle of the Hurtgen Forest, so it was time to rest here, the village of Hosingen, and they took up defensive positions around here. So as you guys can see behind me, this is where Lieutenant Flynn set up the company CP at Hotel Schmitz. It is not called Hotel Schmitz anymore, but it is right, the building is still there. It is right in the center of Hosingen, and it stayed the company CP basically till the battles ended. So K Company was assigned to a 2-mile stretch along the Skyline Drive. That was the main road that I said to you guys, the main road that goes from north to south, paralleling the front line. Now, they will do patrols during the day, monitoring the area between the highway and the Uhr River, which is the natural border with Germany, and basically the Germans were on the other side of the border. During the day they also had outposts on top of the hills near the river, but they were pulled out during the night. All in all, the village seemed to be well defended against anything the Germans might throw at K Company. At least they thought so. This was the situation on December 15th, right before the Battle of the Bulge. Right now we're going to the Uhr River, and basically that's the location. We're going to the place where the Germans first crossed the border, and from there I will continue to tell you guys the story of how the battle evolved from there. Alright guys, standing here at the Uhr River, the border between Germany and Luxembourg. This is where the 26th Volksgrenadier Division gathered before their attack on Hosingen and some of the villages south and north of Hosingen. This is where they amassed before the Battle of the Bulge started. This is where all the armor gathered. The bridges, I'm standing in the bridge at the village of Untereisenbach. Basically all the bridges were destroyed. So all the armor and soldiers were gathering in this area before the attack. Now, early December, when Captain Fiker and men from K Company and other troops from the 28th Infantry Division were positioned along the border with Belgium and Germany and Luxembourg and Germany, they heard increasing noise of vehicles. But of course they had no clue about a major German offensive coming up. The outposts heard the noises of tanks and vehicles. But never did they thought about one big German offensive. So the 26th Volksgrenadier Division who crossed in this area was considered one of the best of General von Manteuffel's 5th Panzer Army. And with 12,000 men under command of Major General Heinz Kolkott, their mission was to control and capture the villages that were held and the positions that were held by the 110th Infantry Regiment. Then capture the bridge over the Clare River, and from there move on to Bastogne and capture Bastogne on the second day of the offensive. We all know how that turned out, but that was the original plan. So on the evening of December 15th, the most southern outpost back at Hosingen from K Company picked up noise from the vehicles and trucks and other armor that were amassing in this area. The sound soon faded, but as a precaution, the mortar positions of the company were shifted to new positions. Around 3 a.m. on December 16th, elements of the 304th Panzer Grenadier Regiment of the 2nd Panzer Division and the 39th and the 77th Volksgrenadier Regiment of the 26th Volksgrenadier Division began quietly crossing the Our River by rubber boats. The 77th Volksgrenadier mission was to bypass Hosingen and head for Draufold to seize the Clare River bridges, which German armor planned to cross by nightfall on December 16th if they were to take Bastogne the following day, and delays could be ill afforded. So very early in the morning on December 16th, 1944, the American defenses were quickly surrounded by the German units. The battle hadn't started yet at that time. However, some German units already started attacking some of the American outposts here in the area. Most of them actually waited for the bombardment, which signaled the real attack, the real Battle of the Bulge, the launching of the offensive of Operation Wacht am Rhein. That happened at 5:30 a.m. And basically we can see one of the American outposts right here. It is the water tower in the village of Hosingen. At 5:30 a.m. the GIs on top of it, from 1st Platoon, they were the observers from 1st Platoon, they saw the skyline to the east. They saw it lit up with hundreds of pinpoints of light. And seconds later, artillery shells started raining down here in the village. And this water tower is one of the spots that played a huge and big role in delaying the German advance in the area. So during the barrage, Lieutenant Flynn dashed to the north end of the village to check on 1st Platoon, who was on the left side, the western side of the Skyline Drive road. Lieutenant Porter went to the south end and checked on 2nd Platoon, and basically during the 45-minute barrage, 6 buildings got on fire, and Lieutenant Flynn recalled that the town was pretty well lit up. And basically he saw that the whole ridgetop was ablaze. It was crazy. It must have been a hell for those 300 men from K Company, only K Company, and including the other defenders. It must have been in hell. Just artillery shells raining down on them, just like it is the basic image which we know of the Battle of the Bulge. for most of the frontline troops who witnessed the shellings on the morning of December 16th. By the way, if you are interested in visiting the spots that I'm visiting today, check out the description. There's a link to all the points, and this way you can visit everything yourself. There's also a link to all the sources I've used and the useful maps that I'm using as well. Links are down in the description. You can print them out, you can do whatever you want with it, you can read more about the heroes of Hosingen. But I just want to tell you guys that if you want to visit this place, check out the description. Alright guys, so I'm standing below the water tower, and basically on the morning of December 16th, as soon as the fog lifted, the GIs on top here, they saw a white-clad German force moving from the east to the west towards the village of Hosingen. They were charging across this field here, right to the east of the water tower. Now basically the GIs on top, they alerted the ground troops, and they took care of the situation with the help of, with the combination actually of bar machine gun fire, rifle fire and mortar fire. They shattered the German assault, and you know, the surviving Germans, they retreated to their official lines, and they left behind scores of dead and wounded. Right here in this field. Right here in this field. An initial rush by the German 77th Volksgrenadier Regiment went along the Obereisselbach-Hosingen-Drauvold road, and basically they overran the outpost at Steinmauer Hill. Now with this attack they cut off 3rd Platoon from K Company and also an anti-tank unit from K Company, so that whole force was cut off from the rest of K Company in the center of Hosingen. And those troops, some of them were able to retreat back to the west, to the divisional lines, but some of them also were wounded, killed, and captured. So, when other German troops started to penetrate the southern outskirts of the town of Hosingen, Lieutenant Porter's men of 2nd Platoon started to engage them in house-to-house fighting. Now, during this, a German officer was captured, and that officer had a map with him, which actually had the outlines of the whole German 47th Panzer Corps, all the way to Bastogne. And this was vital information because Lieutenant Porter contacted Captain Fiker, the commander of K Company, and Fiker then contacted the divisional HQ, and it wasn't until they realized that a huge counter-offensive by the Germans was going on. And you know, capturing that map was of a very strategic point. However, by then most of the regimental positions were cut off or surrounded by the German troops. Alright guys, Joe here at Steinmauer Hill, the outpost of the 2nd Platoon. Crazy. This is where the forward observers from 2nd Platoon saw the first Germans coming down the hill, and they also saw the first artillery barrage coming over the field to the east. I'm just trying here to relive the past and imagine what they must have been through. How it must have looked when they saw those Germans coming at them, firing at them. Beautiful. I love history, guys. I love this. If you want to visit this place, check out the link in the description. There's a map with all the locations, all the outposts. Wow, look at it. Steinmauer Hill. It's just crazy that this all must have happened here. And if you want, you can, I just You can grab your original piece of Steinmauer Hill right there, guys. No, just joking. So the German troops kept firing on Hosingen all night, and the observers in the area, right here at the water tower, they were able to spot German patrols gathering here in the northern end, preparing themselves for a main attack. And this attack happened that night on December 16th, and despite the losses of the Germans, they continued to push on into the village of Hosingen, and really house-to-house combat started to evolve. Now Flynn was involved in one of these house-to-house fighting. He killed a German officer, and when he searched his body, he found documents that had information about the American positions. Yes, the American positions all over the area. It's not only K Company, but also the other defensive positions of the 28th Infantry Division. So Flynn reported this to Fiker, who was back at the Schmitz Hotel in the center of the village. Now throughout that action, the observers from 1st Platoon, who were still in the water tower, they were able to break every German assault, as they were still able to report the German positions back to the 81st and 60mm mortar crews, who were just firing all day on the German positions. So the fights in Hosingen continued all day, and it wasn't only until 4 p.m. when a bridge was constructed over the Ur River back at the border with Germany. This allowed German armor to finally join the battle. Now, the Germans really needed Hosingen. They were a little bit, how can you say this? They were annoyed. They were annoyed because of the stubborn American defenders in this village. And they also needed this road to supply the 26th Volksgrenadier Division. Basically, the Skyline Drive and the road to Draufold were very, very important for the Germans. The Skyline Drive allowed the Germans to pass from north to south to their other troops in this area, and the road west towards Draufold was an access road to Bastogne. So if K Company was still holding this village all the time, they were very limiting German movement towards the west, and of course this helped with the failure of the German advance. So on December 17th, the German commanders became really impatient about Hosingen, and they sent the 78th Volksgrenadier Regiment at Steinmauer Hill. They took up positions over there, where firstly the 3rd Platoon had its positions, the outpost. But again, they were not able to do it just by themselves. So instead, the German commanders sent down tanks from the 2nd Panzer Division, who was north at Marnach, and they sent them south in order to support the 78th Volksgrenadier Regiment at Steinmauer Hill. So the Germans tried to deceive the American defenders of Hosingen, because they also had a tank unit with them. So what they did, around 11 a.m. in the morning, they sent 2 half tracks, and the front one was actually an American half track. But the American troops spotted 2 half tracks racing down from the northern end, right here, the Skyline Drive. This is the northern end of the village at the Skyline Drive. And the American troops saw 2 half tracks just speeding down the road. Now, luckily, the American tanks did not open fire on those half tracks, because German panzers were, because of with this action, the German panzers were trying to see where the Sherman tanks were hiding themselves. So if the Sherman tanks had shot at the half tracks, they would have given up their position to the German panzers, and they would have been an easy target. But luckily, the Germans didn't fire, and so they did not reveal their positions to the German tanks. Alright, throughout the afternoon, German infantry started to work their way into the village of Hosingen from the north and from the west. Yes, from the west, because most of the German troops of the Battle of the Bulge, of the German advance, had already bypassed Hosingen, and they were on their way to Bastogne. But right here in Hosingen, there were 300 stubborn defenders, so they were actually surrounded. And from the north and from the west, German infantry kept moving into the village. First platoon was overrun. Their machine guns were destroyed or disabled. Even their 50 caliber machine gun was disabled. And also, the 60mm mortars started to run low on ammunition. And more important, rifle ammunition started to run low. So, things started to get worse for the Americans. And the water tower was the next thing that got attacked by the Germans, because this was still a pain in the ass to the Germans. Now, the water tower actually never fell down. It never was destroyed. According to my sources, it was never destroyed. German panzers and tanks started to fire on it, and it just did nothing to it. It, of course, you guys can see it. Back then, during the war, it is said that it had a concrete outer wall and a steel inside, an inside protective steel case, tank, a water tank, probably just to keep water clean, of course. The Germans kept firing at it. It did nothing. They didn't even. Of course, there were holes in it, but the metal part inside the water tower, it catched all the shrapnel, and it did do no harm to the building itself. Sergeant Everson from the 1st Platoon observers inside the water tower, he was basically firing at the German infantry who was working their way into the village, and one of the tanks just shot at him, and it didn't blow him to pieces, but he was blown down the stairs at the top of the water towers, and he was knocked to the ground. He wasn't able to see and hear, and when he woke up, he saw just Germans pinpointing their rifles at him, and he was taken prisoner. So yeah, also on the second day, the water tower was overrun. Alright guys, so at Monday 4 AM, December 18th, 1944, 2 days after the start of the Battle of the Bulge, Captain Fiker was discussing with the commander of the 3rd Battalion of the 110th Regiment. They were discussing what Fiker and his men would do. Milton actually advised Fiker to move west through the German lines back to the divisional lines, but Fiker said it wasn't possible. The German force was too strong, and the gap between the divisional lines and K Company, it was too big. So Milton then said Fiker should do whatever he can and make sure that his men would be safe. So Lieutenant Flynn advised Fiker later on to surrender. Surrendering would mean that more lives would be saved, and that would be the best thing to do. That's what Flynn said. So Fiker conceded with his men and officers, and they came to the conclusion to surrender. But they didn't do that before they destroyed all their ammunition, all their weapons, and they destroyed. It's a funny thing, because when I was here 2 years ago, I found a lot of remaining stuff, a lot of exploded ammunition in the woods here in the park to the south, when I found out about the story, when I read about the story, everything came, it all fitted. So this is a very interesting thing, but also a very heroically thing. I believe that Fiker and of course Lieutenant Flynn and all the other men from K Company did such an outstanding job in defending this village, annoying the German commanders, because this village became a pain in the ass throughout December 16th and 17th, and also during the night, the 18th. It was crazy. But yeah, they did it. They managed to save Bastogne. They managed to hold up the German advance to the west as long as possible. And you know, because of this, there were more than 2,000 German casualties. More than 2,000 German casualties against only 7 killed from the defenders here at Hosingen. So when the prisoners, including Flynn, started to gather up in this area as they were being taken prisoner, they were gathering in the streets, the Germans were really surprised. Only about 300 defenders in this area made sure there were over 2,000 German casualties, where 300 Germans were killed. Unbelievable. Look at the monument behind me. This is the reason why they are called the heroes of Hosingen. So out of somewhat 300 defenders, only 10 were wounded, and from those 10, 2 were seriously wounded, and only 7 were killed. It is unbelievable when you compare that to the German casualties and killed. It is crazy. It is unbelievable, and this is why I believe this village has so much history, beautiful history. Well, of course not beautiful, a tragic history. But those men, they were really heroes. I believe they were heroes. If you guys want more information about this, there's a book called The Heroes of Hosingen. It's written by one of his relatives from Lieutenant Flynn. Lieutenant Flynn, guys. Lieutenant Flynn. He was here. You guys can see it. Here he is, prior to the war. This is him with his wife after the war. I believe this was taken after the war. Sorry if I'm wrong. But this ground, this town, I wonder how the fields must have been filled with dead German bodies. Crazy. Now at the crossroad of the Obereisenbach Hosingen Draufeld Road, right in the center of Hosingen, you guys can see this monument. It is dedicated to K Company, and also to the men of B Company from the 103rd Engineer Battalion. It is crazy, guys. Unbelievable. Discovering history, discovering and reliving the past. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment, make sure you subscribe and tell your friends. I love making videos like this. More information about Thomas Flynn, about K Company, and about the Heroes of Hosingen, and all the sources that I've used down in the description. I want to thank you guys for watching, and hopefully see you guys in the next video. Hopefully the sound is not too bad. Thank you guys for watching, salute, and see you next time. Bye bye.